Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel, and today's topic is nervous system. This is the most important chapters of physiology, so I want everyone to pay utmost attention here. And in this lecture we are going to cover the introduction part and the physiological anatomy of spinal cord. So let's begin. Now when we talk of nervous system, let us discuss what are neurons. So neurons are the specialized cells that constitute of the functional units of the nervous system, and the function of the neurons are they are responsible for reception and response to the change in internal and external environment, right? So the human nervous system has more than 100 billions of neurons, and various parts of the nervous system are interconnected, but here for convenience, for making you understand, we are dividing the nervous system into two parts based on the anatomy and function. So here we have divided the nervous system into two parts: anatomical divisions of nervous system and functional divisions of nervous system. In anatomical divisions of functional nervous system, we have CNS and PNS, and in functional divisions we have SNS and ANS. Now CNS is central nervous system, PNS is peripheral nervous system, SNS is somatic nervous system, and ANS is autonomic nervous system. So now when we talk of CNS, it occupies the central axis of the body, and the PNS, it lies outside the CNS and consists of the peripheral nerves and the ganglia which are associated with the nerves. Now when we talk of now here, let me tell you, the functional divisions will deal with the functional divisions, that is SNS and ANS, in the later part. Right now we are just focused on the anatomical divisions. So the CNS occupies the central body axis, and PNS lies outside the CNS and consists of the peripheral nerves and ganglia. Now the CNS is again divided into two, that is brain and spinal cord. The brain has again divided into three parts, that is forebrain, midbrain and hindbrain. So the forebrain is known as telencephalon, that is the central hemisphere's cerebrum, or the anterior part of the forebrain, and diencephalon, which is the posterior part of forebrain. Now the diencephalon, the upper 2/3 part is the thalamus, and the lower 1/3 part is known as the hypothalamus. Then forebrain is completed here. Now we're going to enter into the midbrain, which is also known as mesencephalon, and the last one is hindbrain or rhomencephalon. So hindbrain is again divided into pons, medulla oblongata and cerebellum. So forebrain has two parts, that is cerebral hemisphere, cerebrum, or the anterior part of the forebrain, and diencephalon, that is posterior part of forebrain. Diencephalon, the upper 2/3 part is known as thalamus, and the lower 1/3 part is known as the hypothalamus. The midbrain is known as mesencephalon, forebrain is known as telencephalon, and hindbrain is known as rhomencephalon. So the rhomencephalon is divided into pons, medulla oblongata and cerebellum. Now when we talk of peripheral nervous system, the peripheral nerves are attached to the brains and spinal cords via cranial nerves and spinal nerves. The cranial nerves are 12 pairs and the spinal nerves are 31 pairs. So now moving on to the functional divisions, we have the SNS and ANS. Both the SNS and ANS has sensory and the motor functions. So the sensory function is basically for collecting the information, and motor is for executing the action. So now when we see the SNS, that is somatic nervous system, we have again sensory division and motor division. So the sensory division, what it does is it collects the information about changes in the external environment and interprets its meanings and of these changes, and consists of sensory receptor, afferent neurons and parts of the brain. So what it does is it collects information from the external environment, the changes of the external environment, and act accordingly. Now what it does is it receives the stimulus from the external environment. Whenever there is change in external environment, the stimulus is received of the sufficient intensity to evoke a response in an organism. The stimulus can be auditory, visual, mechanical, chemical or thermal, any kind of stimulus. So this is in response to the external environmental change. Now what it does is the stimulus carries the stimulus is received. Now the efferent neurons carry the impulses from the receptor to the CNS, that is the brain or the spinal cord, and according to that the parts of the brain deals with the processing of this information and reacts or puts out an action accordingly via the motor division. So the motor division executes appropriate action with the help of skeletal muscles in response to the change in external environment by the sensory division, and coordinates action of various skeletal muscles of the body. So now the sensory, as I said here in the above section, that it is for the collection of the information, whereas the motor is for the execution of the action that is being as a response to the stimulus. Okay. Now the motor division, the skeletal muscles are also called as the effector of the SNS, because indirectly the skeletal muscles are the one which are responding to it. This consists of the motor division consists of the neurons that carry signals away from the brain and spinal cord to skeletal muscles, that is efferent neurons. So what it does is, now when we had the sensory division or the sensory receptors coming up, we passed the information to the CNS, and now via the efferent neurons. But here the efferent neurons carries the signals from the neurons from the brain and the spinal cord to the skeletal muscles, so that they can perform the action that is necessary, right? So here a single motor neuron arising in CNS traverses directly into the skeletal muscle without mediation of the ganglia. The SNS is under the voluntary control. We can control it, that for it is voluntary. Now coming on to the autonomic nervous system, what it does is it collects information about the change in the internal environment, interprets the changes and guides action, and gets the plan executed by a smooth muscle of viscera, cardiac muscle, and sensory epithelium of glandular cells or the glandular tissues. So here we are talking about the internal environmental changes, and that responds to the smooth muscles or cardiac muscles and the sensory epithelium of glandular tissues. The ANS responds for activities of the organs of digestion, circulation, excretion, respiration, reproduction, adrenal medulla, sweat gland, salivary gland, and lacrimal gland. So this is how ANS affects all the activities of the organs of such necessary processes or the systems of the body. Now auto means self and nomos means control. So now when we talk of autonomic or autonomous, so it is involuntary nature that can be guessed out. Now the ANS is divided into sympathetic and parasympathetic. So each has a central and peripheral component. The sympathetic is also known as thoracolumbar division because it consists of the thoracic and lumbar chains of the sympathetic ganglia, whereas the parasympathetic is known as the craniosacral division, which consists of ganglia associated with 3rd, 7th, 9th and 10th cranial nerves. Now here coming to the physiological anatomy and functions of the spinal cord. Here we are only dealing with the physiological anatomy, some portion, the rest will be dealing in the next lecture. So here the spinal cord extends from the upper border of first cervical vertebra to the lower border of the first lumbrical vertebrae. So here you won't get it, so let us see in the diagram how it is. So when you see the C1 in the upper part to L1, that is the extension of the spinal cord. Now let's see what is the second line saying, that upper end is continuous with the medulla oblongata and the lower end is called as conus medullaris, which is continuous with the fibrous cord called as filum terminale. So here when we see the diagram, we can see the upper part is continuous with the medulla and the lower part is called as conus medullaris, which is continuing with the filum terminalis or terminal view, which you can see in the diagram clearly, right? So the spinal cord is cylindrical in shape and there are two fusiform shaped enlargements. One is cervical enlargement and the second is lumbar enlargement. The cervical enlargement has the innervation of upper limbs and the lumbar enlargement has the innervation of lower limbs. So now again coming back to the diagram, we can see cervical enlargement, C3 to T2 and lumbar enlargement. So the cervical enlargement is for the innervation of upper limb and lumbar enlargement is for lower limb. L se L yaad rakhna, lumbar se lower limb. Right. So now coming back to the diagram, we have the another point, that is cord possesses in middle anteriorly a deep longitudinal fissure, the anterior median fissure, and on the posterior surface a shallow furrow, the posterior median sulcus. So that we can see in this other diagram. So when we see here, the upper side we have the posterior medial sulcus and the lower side we have the anterior median fissure. So this is this portion we are gonna deal with in the next lecture. So for now you have to remember the spinal cord possesses a midline anteriorly a deep longitudinal fissure, which is known as the anterior median fissure, and on the posterior surface a shallow fissure or furrow, that is the posterior median sulcus. The spinal cord, like the brain, is surrounded by three managers, that is dura mater, arachnoid mater and pia mater. So here we end our lecture. For any query or any doubts, you can comment down in the comment section below, and if you like the video, please like, share and comment, and also subscribe to our channel.